Yo, everybody, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? Shout out to Morbid Angel already with the positivity. Good to see you here, baby. Oh boy. What is going on in the world, dear listener? Well, I don't know, y'all. I just figured I was like, it's 11 something. Maybe I could hang out with the people for a little bit, hang out with the crew, you know. And so yeah, I was figuring I was gonna hang out for a little bit. The world's going crazy, you know. I mean, you never know, man. These you never know when it could be your last one. My lord, everything going on today is pretty crazy. First time here. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you're here. Cattle murder in the house, man. The big homie cattle murder. I haven't seen you in a while, baby. 3Viz 404. That's you know how she is with the political stuff, bro. You know she ain't gonna come on here for that one. What's up with everybody? Benji, good to see you, buddy. What are you struggling with, 3Viz? What you struggling with? I mean, a lot of people are struggling, so you got to be a little bit more specific. That's pretty cool of you to come and share something so personal right out the gate. So I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be answering questions, you know, like I do, but I'm going to be talking about the whole concept of Israel trying to provide some clarity, because people are like really confused, and they're asking me like, yo, you're a Christian, so like what are you doing with this Israel stuff? Like, are you supposed to co-sign everything they do? How's that supposed to go? Why am I seeing Christians saying all types of crazy reckless stuff about Palestinians? Yep, that's all there, buddy. That's all there. So I was going to talk about that too. Floyd, relax, buddy, relax. We've got a what do you call it? Alliance thing is coming up in a couple days. So we're going back to the music. We had music reactions about like 3 or 4 days ago, buddy. You gotta get up on it. What's up, Raccoon City? I just realized, is Raccoon City like an allusion to a... I feel like it's an allusion to a video game. Is that true or no? Did I get that wrong? It sounds like, what do you call that thing? I forgot what they call that. Do you consider the current plot of land we call Israel to be Israel in the historic sense? Well, for one, the land dimensions just are completely different. You know, if you were to look at the land that God promised Abraham and compare it to now, you'd have parts of Saudi, pretty much the Levant, to be honest with you. So you'd have that whole thing, and that's what's his face was talking about when he said, I wouldn't mind if they took it all, or it'd be fine if they took it all, or some other psychopathic thing that would represent, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deaths. From a biblical perspective, where God was done with the nation of Israel as a nation in exclusive covenant with God by the year AD 70. So, and there's good reason to believe that. Not only from Christian sources, but also in Jewish sources, to be honest with you. So from that vantage point, no, I don't think they're the same kind of people, and it's not even relevant anymore, because like I said, after 70 AD, God was pretty much done with them as a nation at that point. Resident Evil, okay. All right, Resident Evil. That makes a lot of sense. So, it's not really about land from my vantage point. It's about covenant. So, like, God enters into covenant with a group of people, and he says, I'll be your God, you'll be my people, it's going to be great. And so that's what we call covenant. And the nation of Israel was in covenant with God. And as that covenant wore on, they kept violating it over and over again. And eventually God said, okay, I'm going to make a new covenant. It's going to be different from the one that we had before. And so Jesus shows up bringing in the new covenant. They rejected him. So what that means is, since God is offering the new covenant through Jesus and you reject Jesus, now you're outside of covenant. And so all the land, all that other stuff, none of that stuff is relevant if you're not in covenant with God. So that's the real crux of the issue. If Jesus is who he says he was, then those folks are not in covenant with God. But if he wasn't, then there's still a chance that they would be in covenant with God. So at that point, I would, the land and all that becomes irrelevant. I mean, at some points in the Old Testament, God uses the word squatters, basically. The land was never supposed to be thought of as perpetually theirs. It was something that they were stewarding as they were following God's laws. What's going on, Mr. Noise? Good to see you. I certainly don't think it is obvious to me that both leaders, whether it's Mr. Trump or Mr. Netanyahu, it's pretty clear to me that they're both kind of looking at each other and going, let's just go for it. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like they just kind of looked at each other and said, Trump's like, look, I'm 76 or 79 or something. Well, what's up, Ascender Prime? I think they both kind of looked at each other and said, look, the cat's out the bag. I'm 76, you're whatever. We've done a lot of dirt and evil in the world, so we know what's coming after. So let's just go out with a bang. That's what it looks like to me. It just looks like to me that they're just like, yo, let's just take everything. It's what it looks like to me. Hey, I'm probably aware I could be treated twice in a few. Yeah, Amy, I just showed up in your dreams, girl. You ain't dreaming, Amy Lee. Yeah, so it just looks to me like Netanyahu and Trump are like, let's just go for it. I get the feeling that Netanyahu understands that they're not going to be able to do this, when 2028 comes around, right? And so it's like, it just seems to me that it's like, let's go. Let's annex Lebanon. You know what I mean? I don't think it's funny, but there's a lot of ways to look at these situations, right? That, on the one hand, we're going to look at the human side of things. We're going to look at the human cost, the girls in the school, for example. But there's another side of this. My kids have this game. It's kind of like Risk, only it's like a digital version of Risk. I don't know if that makes any sense. And it's like, you see, when they're talking to each other and the moves that they're gonna make and things like that, and you go, oh yeah, that's right. At some level, this is a game, right? And what I'm saying is, in the minds of these people who don't have to play to pay those prices, you don't have to lose your children, you don't have, you know what I'm saying? And there's a sense in which it becomes a game to these people, and they don't even see what's actually happening, at the human level. But the market manipulation Trump is on is crazy. Yeah, that was insane. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there was billions that were traded over hours prior to Trump's announcement about the about the ceasefire or whatever, the stalling of hostilities. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like it's just like all the horrible things about our government and capitalism. And again, this is not like to promote socialism or communism. I don't think any ism in the economic world right now is a just system. It just so happens that we're in a capitalist context, and so it's like we're combining this warmongering with the gambling and it's just insane. It's just a giant cluster. The more I watch this unfold, the more it's clear to me that this is Bretton Woods 2.0. I mean, I I think for me personally, it's going to be increasingly important to stay connected to you guys and have these discussions. I think that if we remain isolated, I think it's bad. You know what I'm saying? I think it's bad. I think we need people around us and things like that. I think our government has essentially told us in not so many terms, you guys are on your own. Figure it out. So, you know what I'm saying? We got to figure it out. Do you think Trump is more interested in his legacy rather than the state of the world? In his interviews, he seems to always come back. Yeah. I think that here's my thing about Trump. You can still win with a guy who is motivated singularly by his own legacy and his own ego, right? I think at some level, you have to have an ego the size of Texas to even believe that you should be the one to wield all that power in the first place relative to being the president of the most powerful country in the world. Like, you kind of have to be an egomaniac to a degree anyway. And you can work with that because if you can convince that guy, the legacy guy, if you can convince him that your agenda is the way that he's going to solidify his legacy, then you're golden. And the problem is that somebody got in his head, sounds like Jared Kushner mostly, and basically told him, look, we've been shit talking about Iran and we've never done it. You could go down as a president who's actually finally done it, yada yada yada. And I think it's as simple as that. The lives of those girls and the lives of the servicemen and women that we lost, I think it's as simple as that, honestly. And of course, there's the background of blackmail and all the other stuff, right? That's there too. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Did the ceasefire actually happen? Yeah, our ceasefire where we stopped, I'm pretty confident that we've stopped. I don't think the Israelis are going to stop. Some Jews believe Trump is a messiah. I haven't seen that yet, and I watch a lot of Jewish media because I think it's very, very important to hear everybody's perspective. I'm the pro-lifer, so I'm always going to be on the side of kids, and anybody that's blowing up kids is problematic for me. And so I listen to a lot of I listen to more Jewish media on these topics than anything than non-Jewish media. So I haven't heard anybody say anything messianic about Trump in the media I've been listening to, but I mean, who knows? I actually think America won't be the most powerful for long, not specifically because of Trump. Look at how expensive it's gotten to build infrastructure, and look how we defect. Well, I mean, I do think that Trump has a lot to do with that, though, between the tariffs and this Iran thing. I mean, that's not. It's been pretty bad in my view. You know what I'm saying? Like that. There's a lot of stuff there where I'm like, I don't know, man, because now it's making things a lot more difficult that doesn't need to be difficult. And Noise's point is like correct. Like, God's gonna bring us through regardless. We just got to be wise about the stuff. But I think it's a. I was having a conversation with Jet earlier today, and like I was just thinking about how difficult to navigate it must be for Jewish people right now, because it's like there's a lot of voices and there's a lot of spectrums, and that's what I'm like constantly trying to. I don't know about warning people. I don't know if warning is the right word, but like there are people that are really enjoying this moment right now. You know, for the longest time, that group of people were people you couldn't talk about, you couldn't do anything. It was kind of a sacred cow in America. And I think people are like, yay, we get to slam these people now. And it's like, okay. So like I think to myself, like, if I was Jewish, like how could you look at this as anything other than just everybody around me has hated me forever and now they're able to, express it or whatever, right? I hear a lot of that in Jewish media. And so I'm like, it must be really difficult to operate right now as a Jewish person because, like, obviously there are genuine criticisms that could and should be levied against Israel because of the way they've treated Palestinian people. But the magnitude of it and the anger and the you're seeing things that, like, I'm seeing things that are making me like uncomfortable even if they're not, like for example, when Anna's like, you're hated, and like I get what she said, like, it's not because you're Jewish, you're hated because you like to kill people and you like to take their land and all this stuff. It's like, yeah. And a lot of that is just like my Christian sensibilities, right? Like, we're not supposed to like proudly go and declare that we hate people. But I also just think to myself, like, I don't know, man. Like, it'd be very, very hard to be a Jewish person and see what she's saying and then only cut down the line, and not like be emotionally affected by all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Elon had a chance to launch Trump under the pretense of getting the Moon Nobel Prize, but things didn't pan out. It sounds crazy to some extent, but the last moment of great economic growth for the common American was around 2000-ish, and it was due to the internet boom. Yeah. The .com thing. Yeah, once the .com thing hit, it was sustained growth, and there were a lot of startup businesses, and that obviously creates jobs for people. But that collapsed almost as soon as it got stood up. Trump is teaching the world the peaceful ways of the USA by force. Yes, I guess. Humans are malleable to belief when it comes to social and economic disparity. If you look at what happened after 9/11, you saw the fundamental and futile, almost hypnotic belief. Look no further. Yeah? No, I agree with that. I think that is what the war is really about. The U.S. man. Think about Venezuela, Iran. They're both in BRICS. Yeah, I think BRICS has a lot to do with this. If you look at the hostile nation, I mean, okay, so in a perfect world for BRICS, you've got China, Russia, Iran, and I forgot the other one. Was it India, China, Russia? I forgot the last one for BRICS. Maybe Pakistan. I'm not sure. But anyway, China hasn't done anything that could like get us to go after them. But look what we did with Russia. Like, it's my view that we baited Russia into the conflict with Zelensky, and we got him stuck in a quagmire. And I think we're just going to keep doing that. And then we blew up Nord Stream 2, right? So then one of us on this channel predicted that you're going to get, Exxon and Chevron are going to be great. But now the Germans, who had pretty much staked their entire economy on the relief that BRICS was going to, that Nord Stream 2 is going to get them. That's now destroyed, right? And now Putin's in some forever war against the Ukrainians. We're continuing to give the Ukrainians money so that they can't back out and have peace. And so, like, it just looks like a total stalemate over there. And now we're bombing the Iranians. We're setting them back, completely reoriented their government. So now they got to go back and establish norms and all the rest of it. All these things push them, Brazil. All these things push them back in their development, right? And so there's two birds with one stoneism, but definitely one of those stones was about breaking up BRICS or making it very, very difficult to see a world where BRICS is actually effective, right? And now it's kind of, so I think that there is a America first motivation to some degree in going after Iran, insofar as in the long term, if they were close to establishing BRICS, we have thrown enough sort of water on that fire to make it a lot more difficult. And the name of the game is maintaining American hegemony in the world. So what can you do? It scared me how many of my friends and family I lost to the QAnon rabbit hole. Yeah, well, I mean, I think the best advice that I've gotten with the Epstein file came from somebody in the federal government, and he said, "Look, as far as like, there's millions." I'm like, "There's millions of pages here." He's like, "Just the things that are pertinent to an affidavit, a search warrant, a court appearance, things where you have to swear on pain of perjury." He's like, "Those are the things that you really want to hone in on, and that you really want to look at, and that should like shape your understanding of what's happening." So that's part of it to me. But on the other hand, like, some of the shit there is just satanic. Whether or not it was connected to an affidavit or whatever, some of that shit was just plain satanic, man. And it's like, yeah, those are claims, but it's like, I understand that those are claims, but what are the odds that all of these weird claims that they're all wrong? I mean, they're spread out over years. These people don't know each other. I don't know, man. It's weird in some sense. We are committing the exact atrocity modern day capitalist defenders accuse the USSR of doing. We're liberating other countries against their will. So at this point, I do not see how any American can condemn the USSR for their actions. We're doing the same for the opposite. So yeah. Like, our ability to criticize anybody for anything, I think, is over with. Well, I mean, I think, we're Americans, so we're always going to say our opinion, but like, the weight behind it is significantly different now. Let's say it that way. Let's say it that way. Hey, Larry, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you, baby. Whoa, haven't seen this stream for. I think you're hiding. YouTube is hiding your channel. Nah, YouTube wasn't hiding my channel. That's not what was going on. One of my grandmother's friends died this evening. We just found out about an hour ago. I'm not sure he was a religious man, but he was a very good man. Always treated us well. Yeah, man, when the I've been listening to so many of these near-death experiences, man. Like, these old people, like, they know, it's weird. Like, they'll even say things like, all right, well, I'll wait till so-and-so shows up. And then so-and-so shows up, they give him a hug, and then boom. I've got a video. I don't know if I'm going to release it, but it's basically like you literally see the guy die. And he was waiting for his, like, daughter or something like that. And she showed up, kissed him on the head, and then he was gone. It's weird. Like, they hit some sort of thing, and did you guys know this? 80% of, like, people dying in hospice report seeing other family members, angels, that type of thing. Really interesting stuff. Really, 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 really good. I have often made similar criticisms of Americans discussing China. Not to say I'm a huge China fan. I think China does a lot of bad things. States tend to. However, we do the same. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think America. I think we're beyond the sort of like. I think for me, what I'm seeing in all this, it's like, okay, it's clear to me that the Israelis are like, we need to expand our territory, and now is when we can do it. We got a guy in there that's never going to hold us accountable. He wants us to do this stuff. And I mean, if the Americans have our back, or if the Americans are not against us, then we can do whatever we want in the region. That's clear that's what's happening, and that's why they're trying to annex Lebanon right now. They're just trying to get it all in because they know there's a lot of animus right now to Israel and any Israel lobby. I mean, good night. If you took 28 cents from AIPAC 28 years ago, it's over for you now, right? So I just think that, that's the way these things go. Folks overplayed their hand, I think, and I think that they need to come up with a different strategy. That's what it looks like to me. We learned modern day Baal worshiping Canaanites are real. Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, look, man, you guys know me. You guys have seen me in the years. Like, we believe the Bible. I believe in demonology and things like that, but it was still extremely shocking to read what I read. That was, I'm not going to say traumatic, okay? Because I don't want to, like, the real trauma is for the people that actually had to survive that shit, right? But it was just a real gut punch to think, because you got kids, right? And so, like, you're imagining your kids being in that kind of predicament and not being able to help them. It's tough. Everyone just go see Project Hail Mary. Give yourself 2.5 hour break from this. I actually have the book. I was actually working on getting that movie and like watching it together, but it's still pretty early. It's pretty early. I became Christian after Hurricane Helene. I'm from Southeast Georgia. I was atheist before that, and I still struggle with sin. Well, Joseph, I have good news and better news. I've been a Christian my entire life, and I still struggle with sin. Right? So, welcome to the club. That's why Jesus he said, if you've had a bath, then all you need to do is wash your feet. He said, if you have a bath, you're already clean. All you need to do is wash your feet, right? And what he means by that is, when you accept Christ, right, you get your bath, right? You get completely cleansed. But your feet is the part of you that's still in contact with this world. And because you're still in contact with this world, then you're going to sin. And as such, Jesus characterizes it as foot washing. He's saying, you yourself, you're clean, but you still get dirt on your feet. And so now that's how God looks at sin. He looks at sin as Joseph is completely clean, but he goes through the day, and at the end of every day when he comes home, we got to do his feet, right? Because that's still in contact with the world. So don't despair that you still struggle with sin, because all of us will. But make sure you're looking at it the way Christ is looking at it, right? You're a fully bathed person. You're completely clean. And he understands Joe lives in the real world. His feet are going to get dirty. If you want a technical term, you got Hebrews 10 that says, by one sacrifice, he has perfected for all time. So by one sacrifice, happened 2,000 years ago, before you and I were born, he's perfected it for all time. Those who are being made holy. How can I be made holy if I'm perfected for all time? Well, your position is perfect. You've been bathed by Christ. But again, it's the same principle. You're still walking in the world. Your feet are still touching the ground, right? So you're perfected in Christ, but you're still being made holy. It's the same idea. So there you go. Struggling with sin is actually a massive Christian characteristic. Not struggling with it is a different story. Sadakta. Sadakta. Very good. Shantiveda said it this way: where would I find enough leather to cover the entire surface of the earth? But with leather soles beneath my feet, it's as if the whole world had been covered. Ah, brilliant. Brilliant. I don't know if you've spoken on this, but what are your thoughts on Zionism in the modern state of Israel from the Word of God? Elites may drift into the decadence and moral degeneracy. Historically, it's always been the case. No matter which culture or time period, people got to stop treating Epstein's scandal like it's a one-off. Yeah, I think you're right. It's just very shocking to see it. I always tell people, if you want to know what people think, don't listen to what the people that hate them say. Don't listen to what the people that love them say. Don't even listen to what they tell you. I always say, if you want to know what somebody really believes, or what a group of people really believes, watch what they say when they're around each other. Then you'll know, right? So, to look at those Epstein files and to see those emails and the way they were talking about human beings, it was just, it shocks you, right? Like it takes you away. But at the same time, like bro was right. Like, yo, this shit been going on for quite some time, dude. You know what I mean? Quite some time. All right, now what do I think of the modern state of Israel? I could give you the short version. I can give you a 3-minute version, or I can give you a 12-minute version. So, let me see. Far Out 87. If you want me to give you the 3-minute version, just type 3. If you want the 12-minute version, type 22, and then I'll know what version to give you. I actually think Epstein is different in the sense of scale. Who said that? Epstein is actually different in the sense of scale. It was international. Historically, elites have been insular. Yeah, I think it's just like what happened when we transition into the modern world wars, where we have the technology exponentialize the misery, right? And so now you've got technology, and you've got a guy who's brilliant at you know, making sure those webs and constellations of people are kept enough distance but enough proximity in order for him to do what he was doing. I mean, that dude was super intelligent person. The ability to manipulate human beings is a very difficult skill to master, and he absolutely mastered it. You got to give him that. Like, I hate what he did, but as far as like his craft, as far as the craft goes, he was one of the best I've seen, unfortunately. I went to a church that practiced feet washing once. It felt really clean afterwards. Yeah. The foot washing ritual is one of those ones where, like, I've taken part in it, and it's an odd thing because of how emotional it was for everybody. You know what I'm saying? I found myself like super emotional as we were going through with everybody. I'm not particularly sure why. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure what about it made me so emotional. And it's not something that like I practice on a regular basis at all. Right? So for everybody else, there's a passage in the Gospel of John where Jesus takes off his you know, his regular clothes and basically dresses up like a slave, to be honest with you. Most of the time when you see the term servant in the New Testament and the Old Testament, it's really the term slave, and people are you know, they've got issues with the terminology, so they say servant. But you you had slaves in the Roman world, and in the Roman world, you had a hierarchy of slave, and your lowest slave was a doulos, doulos. That's a doulos, is your lowest slave, and that guy, um, he was responsible for washing everybody's feet because you would step in animal stuff. I mean, it was just sewage. I mean, you could just imagine. So the lowest slave had the doulos, had the foot washing duty, and that's what Jesus is emulating as he's washing the feet of his disciples, and that's the reason why one of his guys was like, "You're never gonna do that with me. I'm never gonna let you do that." And the reason is obvious. I don't want to follow a guy that will do that. I'm not trying to follow a slave. I'm trying to follow a king. You make yourself a slave, forget it, right? It's just not going to happen. So that's what the foot washing ritual was about. Now, obviously, in the modern day, it's not as drastic as in the old school times because we have sneakers now and we have paved roads and things like that. Back then, it was a completely different deal, right? Completely different deal. Back then, it was a pretty big thing for Jesus to do, and it makes sense that would happen. All right, guys. So now let's talk about this, shall we? Let's talk about this. So now here's what's going on. We are being told by our friends, our Christian friends, that we have to support the nation state of Israel because the Israelites are God's chosen people. And God said that if you bless the Israelites, or if you bless the Jews, you'll be blessed. And he said if you curse the Israelites or you curse the Jews, you'll be cursed. Okay? So that is the big thingamajiggy, right? And so what they say is, look, the Jews are the seed of Abraham, and as such, we have to bless them all the time, and you can't say anything bad about them, because if you do, now you're going up against what God says, because he says those who bless will be blessed and those who curse will be cursed. All right, so you have the verse right there in front of you, and here's the verse. It says, now the Lord said to Abraham, go out from your country and your kindred and your father's house. Now remember, guys, that this is not like take a road trip. There's no police force, there's no hospital, there's no welfare, right? So to go away from your country and away from your father's house and away from all of that is an extremely dangerous thing to do. It's dangerous, and there's a reason why we're commending Abraham for being a man of faith. Now, what had happened up to Genesis 12? Because I just got done talking to a guy, actually. And the guy said he's one of these people that believes that, Christians have to unconditionally support the nation state of Israel. And he says, the Bible starts with Israel and it ends with Israel. And, it's funny, people say think for yourself, and I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, but do you think in English? I'll let you figure that one out. So there you go. There's a text right there. But before Genesis 12, there were 11 other chapters in Genesis, right? And so that might be important to think about. Because my friend was saying, it starts and ends with Israel. The Bible starts and ends with Israel. I said, actually, the Bible starts and ends with Adam. It starts and ends with Adam and Eve, actually. What do you see? Oh, Genesis 1:26, God says, we're going to make a man, and we're going to make them, plural, in our image after our likeness. Okay? All right. So now we're told that a human being is an image bearer of God. Wonderful. Then we're told, God says, let them have dominion over the fish and the birds and all the rest of it, right? So it's like, okay, so now the information we have is that human beings are created and they're in the image of God and they're supposed to rule the world together. That's what we have, right? Let's create man in our own image, and then give them dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, everything, right? Then God shows up to our first parents and says, everything is yours, not just the Garden of Eden, but literally the whole world is yours, right? Because it says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. So God gave us the entire planet, right? Okay, so far so good. And you guys know what happened. Shorty went and ate the tree. Then Adam followed. He blamed her. Now there's this curse, right? So now God's project is all screwed up because it was supposed to be two image bearers of God. Those image bearers love each other. Those image bearers have kids who are then little image bearers, and you're gonna love them, and so they're gonna love each other, and they're gonna love me. It's gonna be great. And then sin enters into the world, and we go from being other-oriented, right, to being self-oriented. And so now Adam and Eve there's a big split between these two. And now we see this promise that God says to the woman. He says the seed of the woman is going to crush the head of the serpent who deceived him. So God tells Eve, you're going to have a son, and that son is going to overcome this devil on your behalf. Okay? And that's the reason why when she got pregnant with Cain, she's extremely over the moon happy. She says, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And that man was Cain. And you know that Cain actually was seed of the serpent. He actually belonged to the devil. And then he goes and kills his brother, right? And then he won't take any accountability for it. And so God puts the mark of Cain on him, not to destroy him, but it was actually a mark of protection. Cain said, my punishment's too much for me to bear, and now I'm a wanderer in the land. Whoever finds me will kill me. I think that's what he said. And God said, not so. And he put a mark on him, and it said, anybody who touches Cain, God will avenge him. So the mark of Cain is God's commitment to Cain that he was not going to destroy him. Okay? And he was not going to let anybody else destroy him. The ensuing chapters, humanity starts sinning. The world goes into more and more and more and more violence over and over again. It's just nothing but violence and killing. So finally we have the flood. The flood happens. Noah and his family walk off the ark. And it's not very long till we're going to build Babel, right? In Babel, we say we're going to have a city and we're going to have a tower. Now, that tower is almost universally looked upon as an ancient temple. Okay? So you've got a city, and that's where you do your politics and your commerce, and then you've got your temple, and that's where you do your spirituality. So in Babel, you had the marriage of religion and politics and polity combined into one. And that is when God said, nope, because if they do that, nothing will stop them from what they're planning on doing. And what we were planning on doing was uniting all of humanity in one nation and one tongue. And you say, what's wrong with that? Because we were united under a lie that we could do all this stuff without God. We had no care for God. We had no concern for God. You say, well, you built temples. Yeah, they built temples so that they could go in there, meet with demons, and then have those demons do things for them in exchange for worship. Okay? So that is all of humanity. So now God is like, okay, I'm inventing races now. I'm inventing nations now. Before there was none of that, right? Before, hey, we're all together. Now God's like, all right, boom. We're going to introduce some differences in here. And because of that, people are going to break off and split off. Because it's better for y'all to live in a disparate sort of existence in the earth than all of you concentrated together for a lie that's not true. Okay? So now, nations have now been invented now, and they're off. And now you're like, well, sorry, God, but the project didn't seem like it was going well. You know, the initial project where you have an entire planet of image bearers who love each other and love you. and they're just making a bunch of other little image bearers, and you're putting the image of God all throughout the earth, and everybody's loving everybody. You kind of look up at God and go, well, that didn't work. You had to flood the place. Then after you flood the place, you rebuilt it, and people got a lot more sophisticated. So we're not just going around killing everybody. Now we're going to invent politics and religion, and we're going to put church and state together just without you. Without you, God. So God says, oh, that's what we're doing? Cool. So he blows everything up, and now you've got nations. And there's a very interesting phrase in Deuteronomy 31. In Deuteronomy 31, it says, when the Lord divided the nations, he set them according to the number of the sons of God. That's Deuteronomy 32. Well, what's going on there? What do you mean when he divided the nations, he set them according to the number of the sons of God? The sons of God is a technical term in the heavenly hierarchy. Okay, the B'nai Elohim. These are, they're not angels. They are powerful spiritual beings. You can call them gods with a lowercase g, and the reason you can do that is because the Bible calls them that, Elohim. These are God-like beings who were given jurisdiction over all those other nations. So God sent the nations off, said, all right, we got to blow this up, we got to break this up. And then what God did was he took one of these powerful beings and said, you got these guys. And then the other one, you got these guys. And the other one, you got these guys. Take care of them, show them how to do shit, and then lead them back to me. Well, they didn't lead them back to the true God. They actually led people to worship them. So what people call paganism and all this is why people ask me, like, do you believe that Thor is real if you believe Jesus is real? And there's a part of me that's like, terrible analogy. But there's another part of me, and I say, yes, I actually do believe that Thor is real. I do believe that. Thor, in my knowledge, is a storm god. And Baal is a storm god. And there are father-son combinations in ancient paganism, and there are father-son combinations in Greek paganism, in the Greek pantheon. I believe all those beings are real. I think those are B'nai Elohim. And I think that those beings enjoyed the other nations following them. And when it was time to turn them back to God, they wouldn't do it. They wanted to worship for themselves. Okay? So that's what you're seeing with these other nations. So now, what do you hear? Well, that's why Deuteronomy 32 says, when the Lord divided the nations, he set them according to the number of the sons of God. And then he says, but Israel is his inheritance. Okay? So, what I have is all the nations get dispersed at the Tower of Babel. That's Genesis chapter 11, right? They all get dispersed, but then we're told in Deuteronomy 32, but God is keeping a specific nation for himself. Well, which nation is that? That's when you see the call of Abraham. Abraham shows up in the narrative right after God disperses the nations. Because at this point, you don't know the whole story. You're just like, damn, your project failed miserably, bruh. You keep trying to get these people to like live out this vision, and they just keep fucking it up, and you have to eliminate them here. You got to kill them over there, and now you got to blow up their language and everything. You just quit. Just give up. And now what do you see? Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I'll make you a great nation. Watch this. I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And now watch this. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So God's trying. He's got this job where he's like image bearers all over the earth. The Garden of Eden is just kind of like it's ground zero. It's the capital. But you're supposed to expand because you're supposed to fill the earth, right? And we don't want to do it. So he forces it by creating nations, right? And then he sets these nations, he sets these beings over these nations to take care of them and then bring them to the knowledge of the truth. But then he reserves Israel for himself. So he's like, I'm going to hold the fort here, and then you guys teach the people the truth and lead everybody to God. But that's not what they did. What they did was they kept the worship for themselves. And now you see why Abraham's important. Because Abraham is the way that God is going to bring everybody back. So he just sent everybody out in chapter 11. But now look, what is God's conspiracy here? He says, look, in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. The term blessed in Hebrew just means happy, to make happy. So the easiest translation will be, God says to Abram in verse 3, I will make those who make you happy, I will happy them. And whoever dishonors you, I will curse. Now watch this. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be happy. Okay? All the families of the earth. Wait, didn't you just send them off to these? Yes, I did. Didn't you put these divine beings who you know are going to be bad? Yes, I did. You put them over those people? Yes, I did. Okay, then how are you going to get them back? This is how I'm going to get them back. I'm going to work through Abraham and his family, and through this family, all the families are going to come back. They're going to be happy, right? That's God's plan. Okay. Well, so we heard in Deuteronomy when he assigned all the nations, he assigned all these other beings to them, but Israel he kept for himself. Now watch this. This is pretty crazy, but do what you will with it, dear listener. Okay? This is from the ESV, the English Standard Version. Okay? So watch. All right, that screenshot. Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Mr. Screenshot? Stand by, dear listener. Stand by. Stand by. I think I got it back. Here we go. Now, here's Psalm 82. Now, this is really interesting. This is another reason why I believe that Odin and Thor and all those, I think they're all real. They're just as real as you or I. All right? Now, here we go. Now, watch. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Did you know that? The Bible says that there are other gods. All right? So God is holding a council meeting, and now he's judging the gods. Listen to what he says. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. Now, people are like, okay, this is not talking about like gods. It's talking about human kings. It's talking about human rulers. He's not talking about like gods. Well, I mean, the text literally says that he's talking to gods. But look what he says to these beings. Look what he says. He says, I said, you're gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. But they're not doing their job right. So what's going to happen? Nevertheless, like men, you shall die. These are not humans. These are sons of God, B'nai Elohim. They are what the nations called gods. They're powerful beings that are extremely impressive and very, very fearful to look at, I'm sure, but they're not gods with the capital G. They stopped and took the worship for themselves. So God now looks at them and says, y'all are corrupted. You guys let this stuff get to your head. I said you're a God, sons of the Most High, all of you. I gave you a very high position, and these people that are important to me, I put you above them, and look what you've done. So I'm going to judge you, and you're going to die like men. That means the beings he's talking to here are not regular humans. Now look what is said here. Look what he says at the very end. He says, you'll like men you shall die, and you'll fall like any prince. Then he says, arise, O God, judge the earth. Watch this. For you shall inherit all the nations. Wait a second. I thought that that God set all the gods over the other nations, but that Israel was his inheritance. Isn't that what you said in Deuteronomy 32? Yes. So why is this guy in Psalm 82 saying that God's going to inherit all the nations? Because Israel was never meant to be Israel by itself. The entire point of Israel was this is God's conspiracy to bring all the nations back to himself. So he put the false gods over the other nations, and the true God was over the nation of Israel. And he said, okay, you guys are going to camp out right here for a couple thousand years. You're going to show everybody how to be human. You're going to remind them of the true God. You're going to show them how to, but they didn't do their job. So by the time Jesus shows up, they are so warped in their thinking that they end up killing him. All right? So now Jesus rises from the dead. And now you've got a bunch of Jews and non-Jews coming together in the church. And the Jews who had been, we're the chosen people, we're this, we're that. Now you're dealing with people who are not, the unwashed masses, people who descended, at least spiritually, you descended from people who were worshiping false gods, right? And so now it's like, all right, well then how do you reconcile that? How do you do that? And so now the New Testament has to deal with this, because now you've got Jews and non-Jews living together. And that is not a very good situation if you don't have some way of bringing everything together, right? Like, I hope everybody sees the problem, right? Like, we're the chosen people, all the other nations, they were following false gods. They were following those sons of God, but we were following the true God. And they got caught up in themselves as if their race or the genetics are what made them special. And so now Paul has to talk to these people. You've got a bunch of Gentiles, non-Jews, right? And they're being told, look, unless you get circumcised and totally and completely convert to Judaism, you're really not on the team. So Paul writes back and he says, now the promises were made to Abraham and to his offspring. It does not say and to offsprings, plural, referring to many, but referring to one, and to your offspring. Watch this. Who is Christ? Remember I said, bless those who bless you. I'll happy those who happy you. And in you all the nations will be happied. Paul is saying that when God said that to Abraham, it's because he had in his mind, I'm going to send Jesus. And whoever blesses Jesus will be blessed. And whoever curses Jesus will be cursed. There are no blessings outside of Jesus, and there are no curses inside of Jesus. But there are no blessings outside of Jesus, and there is nothing but curses outside of Jesus. Why? Because Jesus, and that's why God had to put him on the cross. Because in the cross, Jesus is suspended between heaven and earth, but he's also got his arms out. Even the means by which God did the sacrifice is important. Because although he's pulling with one hand non-Jews and with the other hand Jews together. And then who killed Jesus? The Jews killed Jesus. Yes, the Bible says the Jews killed Jesus. And also, the Romans killed Jesus. The Romans, who were still under the pantheon of the gods. The Jews, who had so rejected the true God that when his son showed up, they murdered him. So humanity together on one project, like we did during the Babel situation. We've come back again in Jesus to kill this man. All right? All right. So Paul says Christ is the real seed. Okay? And he's saying if the inheritance comes by the law, then that can't work. So right here, we're being told Christ is the seed. Christ is the vector that determines whether you're blessed or not. Not Israelites, not land, not even Abraham. The seed that's being talked about is Christ Jesus. There's only one son of Abraham where that promise was directly spoken about. And Paul tells us it was Christ. Later on, he would tell us, and if you are in Christ, then you're Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Let me show you one more thing, because I think it's important. Here's Ephesians 2. And again, the Ephesians were a church in Asia Minor. The vast majority of the church was non-Jewish. Okay. So once again, you have got Jews and you've got non-Jews, right? Living together and trying to figure it out, and it's not going well. Listen to what Paul says. Therefore, remember that at one time you Gentiles in the flesh called the uncircumcision by those called the circumcision. So circumcision was the boundary marker that you had that marked whether or not you were on the team or not if you were in Judaism in the first century, right? So that's something that's part of your body. It's part of your flesh. By what is called the circumcision, which is made in the flesh by hands. Remember that you were at that time separated from Christ, alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. That is the state of non-Jewish people prior to coming to Christ. Why? Because we were under the jurisdiction of these gods who were false gods and were horrible and mean and were making us sacrifice our babies and set them on fire to Molech and all the rest of this nonsense. That you saw in the Epstein files. We continue. Watch what it says, though. But now in Christ Jesus, you who were, think about this, subhanAllah. He's talking specifically to non-Jews here. Now, this is a Jew, by the way, saying this to non-Jews. Unbelievable. But now in Christ Jesus, you who were once far off have been brought near by what? By the blood of Christ that the Jews set up and that the Greeks, that the Gentiles pounded into his hands, the blood that both of us shed, right? What does it say? He himself is our peace. When he says our, he's not general our. He's saying the peace of Jews and Gentiles. He himself is our peace, who made us both one. Who is the both? That's Jews and Gentile, and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility. There used to be a place called the court of the Gentiles, and then the court of the Gentiles stopped. And right above that, it was basically, if you are a Gentile and you walk past this line, your blood is on your own head. We can't guarantee your safety, okay? Paul says that in his flesh, he broke down the dividing wall of hostility. There is no wall between a Gentile and God or a Jew and God. Everybody has access directly to God through Jesus. So he took down the dividing wall of hostility by abolishing the law and its commandments expressed in ordinances that he, now this is so important. This is so important. People say, well, who's Israel now? Blah, blah, blah. Look at this. That he might create in himself One new man in place of the two. To what? Jew, Gentile. Those divisions, those hierarchies, that taxonomy. Look, it says that he's going to create in himself a new man, a new Adam, which means that you're included, girls. Listen, one new man in place of the two, so making peace. This means that Christians are a new type of human being. That there is Paul divided the world as a religious Jew. He divided the world between Jew and non-Jew. To him, that was the whole world. Okay? Paul is saying that when Jesus died and rose from the dead, when he came out of the tomb, a new race of humanity was created. So everybody that is now on the team, what does Paul say? If any man in Christ, he's what? A new creation. So we don't think in these categories anymore. Does this land belong to this group of people? That's not the category. The category is this a new world person or an old world person? The old world had divisions, Jew, Gentile, whatever. The new world has literally a new race of humanity. One time, the Christians were fighting each other. They couldn't get along in church. And you know what Paul says to him? He said, "Aren't you acting like mere men?" Well, yeah, we're acting like men because that's what we are. But the implication is, but you're more than that. You're more than that. Why are you acting like this? Right? So, right there, Jesus came and he brought up about a new humanity. He put away the two, the measuring of, is this person a Jew? How much of your bloodline makes you Jewish? Oh, the bloodline goes through your mom, then you're this. Your bloodline goes to your dad, then you're all this ridiculous fighting over DNA and genetics and blah, 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 blah. And Paul's like, no, man, when Jesus rose from the dead, he didn't stop being human, but he rose from the dead in a new humanity. I'm sorry, but he did not rise from the dead as a Jewish person. Paul tells it right here that he's putting away Jew-Gentile distinctions. He might create in himself one new man in place of the two. So it is replacing. So Jesus is replacing these racial categories in the new humanity that is no longer applicable. And now there's one new humanity in Jesus. Outside of Jesus, you have multiple humanities. And you have bloodlines, and you have people talking about blood and soil outside of Jesus. Absolutely. That all makes sense. Inside of Jesus, that makes absolutely no sense because we're new. We're part of a new humanity. We're new world people. Look, so now what does he say? This is insane. He might reconcile us both to God in one body through the cross because both Jews and Gentiles killed him. We came together and did that. And so in one body through the cross, thereby killing the hostility. And now watch this. He came and preached peace to you who are far off and peace to those who are near. Who are those who are far off? That's us. That's non-Jews. That's Gentiles. Who are those who are near? That's Jews. Paul's saying Jesus preached to both of y'all through his death that he wanted peace in humanity, right? So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, resident aliens, heritage Americans. Are you noticing that? People are starting to say, oh, these are what we are the real Americans. White people are the real Americans. We're the heritage Americans. America was built for us, blah, 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 blah. And people are offended by that. I'm not offended by it. I'm a new world person. I don't care. But when you haven't been given that gift that you're a new world person, if you're still an old world person, then You don't you don't have Christ to look at as your example and as your reward, and where you're gonna locate all your value. I don't have Christ. So where do I locate my value? My race. That's right. We are the most numerous group of people in the most powerful country on the planet. And therefore, even though me personally, I'm not doing well, money's not good, this isn't good, girls aren't good, this isn't good, I can still say, well, I'm white, damn it. And the country was for us. And so here is my identity. I'm not out dissing that guy. I understand. If you don't have Christ, then all you have is that. I understand that. Racial identity and purpose is so important that Jesus, that's one of the reasons he came to die. I'm going to put all that in the ground. I'm going to raise up a new humanity. But if the person hasn't gotten the good news yet, they're still stuck in that old way of thinking. They're going to find their locus and their peace and their value and their where they are in the world and their self-confidence. It's all going to be wrapped up into something other than Christ. It's going to be wrapped up in your bloodline, you're this, you're that, what country you're from, and all the rest of it. And there are certain icons in the country where you're like, that is prototypical of what I want. A rich guy who's extremely powerful and none of the rules apply to him. He can do and say whatever he wants. I'm gonna hitch my wagon to that guy, and I'm gonna put my personality and my value into that guy because that guy represents me, and I can pretend that he's an icon of me, and so I don't feel as bad about myself. I understand that. I understand if you don't have Jesus to give you this and to make you truly understand your value and your place in the world and the universe, and you feel that power slipping, people are afraid. So so what Jesus has done is he's created a new humanity. He's created a new humanity, and the entire conspiracy was designed to bring all the nations back to him. And so the Jews or Israel, whatever you want to call them, they occupied such an important role because they were the one, even though they didn't do it perfectly, they did it terribly to be honest, but they still did it. They're the ones that got us that scripture and maintained that scripture and passed it on to the point where until Jesus showed up, right? Because the thing didn't start when Jesus showed up. So even say what you want about the Jews, but they're the reasons that we have our Bible. It's just a fact. And same thing in the New Testament. Vast majority of the New Testament was written by Jews, probably with the exception of Luke and Acts. So 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 now when you pull back and you understand it from that perspective, the land of Israel, people killing people so they can get more land because we're identifying with the bloodline. Obviously, I hope you can see from for now why, from a biblical perspective, that's just a crazy non-starter. Um, what we're seeing, where people are talking about, we should be able to kill Palestinians, dispossess them for their homes, and all the other thing. I mean, you tell me, is that breaking down the dividing wall of hostility? Jesus says, what God has put together, let man not separate, right? And I'd say, like, what God has separated, let man not put together. He's separated humanity from this racial stuff in Jesus. We just got a new race of humanity in Jesus. And I think it's terrible that Christians are bringing back dividing walls of hostility when it literally killed Jesus to bring them down. It's insane. That is insane. Um, yeah, Bubba, we should be past all that color, race, all that stuff. We should be, especially the Christian church. You know, if we are New World people, we should be handling race, gender, a lot of things. We should be handling the things the way that a new worlder would handle it. But a lot of the ways that we handle situations are old world ways of handling the situation. Oh, somebody breaks into your house, man, shoot them, bro. Shoot them. That's old world stuff. It's not new world stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we got a long way to go. We got a long way to go. Um, and I think that the Epstein files showed us that you can say the Bible's woo woo, you can say it's funny, you can say whatever you want, but I don't know what to tell you. What's there is there, right? I mean, it's there. So you those are all things that we got to think about, you know, and we have to. Not everybody's going to be able to like open your Bible and just go straight through like I just did, on a whim, and I understand that, but I don't believe that you need, like a doctorate in theology to understand this stuff. I think it's right there. I think it's pretty. I don't want to say it's basic, but I think it's enough to where it's obvious. Not false God, but gods that were supposed to give glory to the one God. Yeah, yeah. I don't think they become false until they start channeling the worship to themselves. Right? I don't think that any of those gods could be called false gods until they try to do the capital G impersonation. And the minute they try to do the capital G, that's when they become false gods. But, when you're seeing things like I've heard testimonies of some missionaries, like you go into some place, in the jungle, and, your kid's got this horrible snake bite. They'd go to the jungle and they would repeat some little mantra or whatever, and the thing would appear before them. You go to your kid, and the kid's alive, right? And he lives, and you're like, well, how do you explain that? Because the guy's a pagan. He knew nothing about God, knew nothing about Yahweh, but this is a thing that has worked literally like for millennia. How do you explain that? And you say, well, yeah, I mean, the particular principality that was above those people gave some help. And that makes sense because you're trying to get these things to worship you. You want to get these people to worship you. So, yeah, of course, he helped out. But now that we're here, you don't need him for help. You can just go to Jesus, right? So, a lot of this stuff sounds crazy and funny, but I think that's because you're in an environment that's spiritually dominated by Jesus. There are other places where the lordship of Christ is not as pronounced yet, and when that is there, that's when you start seeing a lot of the woo woo and the freaky stuff, and you know that's why, like, I never get excited when that stuff is going on, because that means I'm in an area where God's people are spiritually weak. But people love that stuff because that's the stuff you see on The Exorcist and all the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? Because it can go there, but that's not something that you um that's good to see. What you want to see is a bunch of new world people, and you want to see societies that get created by new world people. So yeah, man, good stuff. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna pace out now. I am burning. It's hot in here. Much love to all you beautiful people. I will see you beautiful people tomorrow